Hey everyone, welcome back to the Unleashing Potentials podcast. I am your host, Bernadette Desir. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode. If you're new to the podcast, welcome. If you've been listening for a while, also welcome. So on this podcast, I discuss the importance of healing, transformation, self-improvement, and most importantly, self-empowerment. This podcast is your home for connections and rediscovering the power and wisdom that dwells within you. Who am I, you may ask? I am a Haitian Canadian adoptee. I advocate for mental health and I talk about much needed conversations that will trigger healing and growth. This podcast is for anyone who is willing and ready to take the next step forward into their healing journey. I also want to give it a shout out to my family in Haiti and all my Haitian people. Bonjour à tout mon peuple haïtien. Bonjour à ma famille et mes amis. Bienvenue. Merci d'avoir écouté cet incroyable podcast. How are you fellow Calgarians are doing? Because it's so cold outside, you guys, we got over a foot of snow for those who don't live in Calgary or different parts in Canada where it's so cold. And let me tell you, these are the days that I can just close my eyes and pretend I'm in Haiti or just in somewhere really warm, some tropical place by the beach. These are the days that I'm sure all of you want to be warm and want to see the sun and want to be by the beach, right? I hope you're staying warm. I always struggled, to translate Fahrenheit with Celsius. I only know Celsius, all right? But when I'm talking to friends in the States or other parts of the world, we both struggle at times to translate the different ways of reading temperatures, right? So I don't know. I looked it up. Okay, it's minus 25 here, minus 22, 25. It's possibly 30 something at different parts in Canada, but where I am, it's minus 25. All right, and that would be minus 13 Fahrenheit. That's as far as I go into the Fahrenheit measurements and everything else. All right. I hope you're staying warm. That's where I'm trying to get at. So I normally do like to start with announcements. I don't have much today, but my regular announcements are normally, hey, make sure you keep up with what's happening with the community on Facebook. And if you're on Spotify, subscribe to this podcast to know when there are new episodes coming out. I also have a channel on YouTube. I haven't posted much on it, but it's there if you want to check it out. All right. So with no further ado, let's dive right into this episode that I want to talk about today. I'm so excited. I wish I just finished the episode, but I'm just getting started because this is such an important topic. I say that most of my topics, but this one, I really mean it. It truly is important. So if you're as vulnerable as I am, and if you're trying to be vulnerable, I'm going to let you know straight up, this is an episode for you. It's an incredible, honest episode that can possibly promote healing for you. And for those you may know, you may let them know, hey, come listen to this episode. And always let me know what you guys think. All right. So yeah, you can see the title of this episode. It's, how to deal with sadness. And before I go any further, I also want to echo that I've done other episodes that are very similar to these topics that I believe would tie really nicely to this one, right? So if you've been listening to my podcast for a bit, you'll know that I've talked about mindfulness, meditation, resting, self-care, habits, routines, boundaries, anxiety in the mind, overcoming grief and grieving and shame, and so many other juicy topics that I've talked about on the podcast. Let's say some of those topics sound appealing and you want to hear or listen to them, please go check them out after you listen to this, right? So, sadness. I'm going to challenge you to challenge yourself when it comes to this topic, all right? And I'm inviting you to do some inner work that might be needed and to not slack off on the work that you know you need to do that you've been putting off for a while, right? And I'm also challenging you to take control of your healing journey because it's yours. Maybe there are those in your path, but they cannot reach the finish line for you because they have their own race to run, right? So, yeah, what the heck is sadness? Let's talk about it. I'm sure you all have heard of it, have talked about it, have experienced it, know someone who is experiencing it, or someone who has experienced it, right? Sadness is such a precious, tender, chaotic emotion that we as human and many other species have. And I believe just like happiness, we need sadness to balance us, to balance our experiences, and to balance who we are as beings. And let me tell you this, I don't know what other way to say it. Sadness is not a one size fit all. All right. You know, when you walk to different stores in the mall or just stores, um, some sizes on the racks, they're organized from small, large, and so on. And then there are different sizes that will say one size fit all or size just one size, right? You can't measure sadness and force others to dress like you, to dress like your sadness, even though that has happened, that continues to happen to many of us. Some of us are carrying generational grief and traumas and sadness, and we unfortunately do pass that on to our kids. We unfortunately pass that on to our friends, and we definitely pass it on to our romantic partners and relationships that we're in. And at times, we do carry it to our professions, to how we see people, how we view the world, and how we interact with others, right? So let me just say that forcing your sadness to fit others will not work in the long term, even though in a short term period it may work. The amount of grief and isolation and loneliness that can be put on someone is very raw and it's very real, and it impacts them in so many ways, in ways that you may not even think of, right? Some of us are professionals and unprofessionals that subscribing others our sadness, right? Let me ask you this. Do you ever think that nobody gives a crap? Right? That they don't care to accept your sadness. Some people will willingly, for free, and instantly accept it. And others who have awakened to their true, authentic selves, who are doing the work, the healing, the inner um, work that needs to be done, I'm going to say it's more challenging for them to accept the junk that you pour on them, right? Unfortunately, not everyone is able to express how they're feeling when it comes to sadness, grief, and possibly many other ways, right? We live in a world and culture where we, in a way, are told how to feel, when to feel, and why we should have any types of emotions or feelings. Here's an even more juicy question. Are you afraid of confronting who or what is draining you or causing you to feel sad? Because sometimes we don't want to confront people that are burdening us with the grief, with the sadness, with their drama and everything else. Because if we do, we'll lose a friend. If we do, we'll lose their respect. If we do, they won't validate who we think they think we are, right? And because of those very few reasons, we hold on to weights that are crumbling us and that are too heavy for us to carry, right? I challenge you to find your voice, as hard as it may be. It's going to cost you so much, my friends, to find your voice, because it's in there, it's inside you. You are your very own person. So I know it's easy for others to want you to look like them, to talk like them, walk like them, and be like them, and to feel and experience sadness the way they do. But it never works in the end. It builds up so many emotions and resentment, and it makes it bigger. All right, makes it much bigger, and it takes much more time to deal with. So sadness is defined as the natural response to emotional pain, feelings of loss, helplessness, hopelessness, or disappointments. No shit, all of us have felt those, all of us. And let me tell you this, okay, sadness is part of life. I am sorry to tell you, you're going to feel it for the rest of your life. And that at times the intensity of it will be so bad that you want to shut off every single switch that's inside you. And you're going to want to just completely cut everything off. But there's a type of sadness that will trigger you to realize your identity without those around you, without those you serve, without those you call friends or family. There's a type of sadness that can shift the algorithm of how you view yourself, the world, and others. And there's a type of sadness that can cause you to beg for mercy, to give you space and time to change. And sadness is real, it's raw, and it's not a one size fit all. I want to echo that again. And sadness happened to all of us. It's an unfortunate human emotion that is so heavy and dense that we can't avoid even if we tried. Believe me, I've tried. And it doesn't work. It takes doing the work for it to work. Now, doing the work takes doing the work, and we have to feel. Who wants to feel? We don't want to feel, right? And it happens to all of us. I don't care who you may be, how old you may be, which generation you were born in. You have experienced sadness, and all of us have experienced profound tragic losses and traumas and heartbreaks, and we've lost people we love, and we've hurt friends, we've hurt families, and some of us have grown weary and tired, and it's not a place of comfort that we want to be in. So Talkspace therapist Elizabeth Keon describes sadness this way: sadness doesn't usually feel good, but it is a very normal emotion, often felt after loss, during a period of pain or transition, or when challenging hardships are on the forefront. It can be a very healthy and normative emotion that's typically temporary. Certainly, feeling sad and sadness can hurt, but suppressing our emotions can often backfire in an unhealthy way. Acceptance and expression often go hand in hand in terms of navigating an emotional time. Getting support or connecting with a clinician can help you identify causes and offer a plan to move forward. And that ties in beautifully with what I have to share next is, just to get help. Find help, find resources that work, and do things that your sadness is triggering and able to heal them. All right. Researchers from the University of New South Wales have found that accepting and allowing for temporary sadness, it helps us to improve our attention to detail, increases perseverance, promotes generosity, and even makes us more grateful for what we have. And I love those two quotes because sadness it tells us something is wrong. Okay, it's a message. Just like the body signals the brain in different parts of the body to do certain things, it sends us messages daily. Some messages are very subtle, some are not. Some we can definitely feel, some we can hear or can't hear. But it's a way of communication. It's communicating with us, our spirit, our soul, our body. It's letting us know that something is wrong, something hurts, and there's a reason, even though we cannot always find the reason right away. All right. And many of us avoid feeling sadness as a way of numbing and protecting ourselves. We stay busy to distract ourselves. We suppress any negative thoughts and emotions that may surface anything relating to sadness. We just don't want to feel, okay? And I find that it's becoming more and more of a bigger issue because at times people open up, people pour out their heart, you guys, and they don't always get an answer in return, or they feel judged or not accepted for what they've been through, or they are being looked at differently because of what they've been through. Right? And it makes it harder for those who enjoy chatting and expressing how they feel. Right? Here's a common sadness that we all experienced from 2020 to 2023 and possibly ongoing with the pandemic. When the pandemic started, you guys, it was hard, and it still is hard for lots of people. Many of us today continue to be tested every single day. Here's what I saw from the pandemic. I saw love in humanity's eyes, a kind of love that only pain could reach and bring out of us. I saw nations uniting, nations hugging and supporting, translating, feeding, clothing, and providing support. And I continue to see people from all walks of life uniting and lifting each other up at all cost. And that is what we are as human beings. And that is who we are, and we know it, even though at times we are blinded by the ego and rash decisions or judgments. We are love. We are one. We are humans, and we are deserving of each other's love, presence, and healing and hope. And during the pandemic, many of us were forced to create a new normal that did not feel normal at all. You guys, I almost lost my mind. I've lost it more than once. But it was so hard. We were forced to lock down, to stay locked down, and everything came to a freaking stop. When has the world ever came to a stop? In my time, I would say the pandemic was that time for me. Right? We experienced from loss and deaths and strains on relationships. And also through the pandemic, I would say the amount of stress that we all had to carry was beyond what we should and can. But we had to because We had no choice. And it was a lot, right? And it was a lot for everyone from homeschooling and whatnot. What am I getting at with the pandemic is that it ties in with sadness. Even though it's been years, there's still a sense of loss, and nothing is as it was or will be again. And lots of changes, lots of depression, unemployment, anxiety, depression, and worry, anger, and the division still between mask or no mask. The list is just endless, right? We have fought, we have overcome collectively and individually. And I believe we can continue to do that. So, according to WHO, which is the World Health Organization, 264 million people globally are affected by depression. That is a lot, and it's globally, right? And if they were to do that with a country, that would still be a lot. So, what is the difference between sadness and depression? Since I'm an expert at having either of those, some of you are too. I can pitch in my cell here when it comes to this. Um, there's a massive difference. All right, so depression is a persistent sadness and lack of interest or pleasure that we normally feel in things that we enjoy. We don't enjoy them anymore. All right. Sadness, it comes and goes. And there are things that we can do to alleviate the suffering and the experiences that we feel when it comes to sadness. All right. That is the two major differences, I would say. On the other hand, let's talk about depression quickly. As I was doing my research, I see that there are 6 major depression or different types of depressions. There might be more. I don't know. So the first one is major depression. Second, persistent depressive disorder. So that would typically last for 2 years, right? And there's bipolar disorder and there's seasonal affect disorder. I'm pretty sure I chronically suffer with that one, you guys. Because when you're from a warm climate, I got culture shocked more than once, but the climate, it shocks my body. I should be used to it by now. I'm not. Maybe you're not either. Maybe you like the warm weather. Maybe you were raised here, born here, and you still don't like the snow. Some people love it. I'm so happy for those people who do love the deep freeze and the snow. During Christmas time, I can do it, but this seasonal affect disorder, it impacts more people than we realize. It impacts a lot of us, especially those from warm climates, but also kids, right? They want to be out and play, but some kids do love the snow in the winter. All right. Here's the next one: prenatal depression, which is also known as postpartum depression. My gosh, I won't even have enough time if I were to go in details with that one. But it's for those who haven't heard it, it's during and after pregnancy, right? When you get depressed as fuck after bringing a bundle of joy into the world. It happened to me, and I know I'm not alone. And the last one I want to share with you guys, that one is it's a shitty one, and I don't wish it on anyone, and I have it, okay? It's clinical depression, and it's very serious, and it requires professional help. Professional help, and you might need to adjust different things in your life and take medication, whatever may works for you. That has worked for me, and I'm flying. I'm doing great. Thank you for asking. Right? But this one's a very serious one. It's serious, but here's when it can become deadly, is when we're in denial of it. At times when we experience such severe depression, there won't be any room for denial. There will be catastrophic collapses in relationship, marriages, kids, and so on. Okay. If you're experiencing this like I am, I got help. I do challenge you to get help and find what works for you. What works for me may not work for you. So find that. All right. And keep in mind that anything can happen to cause these symptoms to flare, to start, or to become stuck in a way. And some of us, it takes longer, it takes time for us to realize that we need help, right? And I challenge you to look deep inside within and see what's stirring up for you. What is causing you to be triggered? Is it past traumas? What is it? Right? And most of us are not willing or ready to face that. Some of us are ready, but we don't want to face it, sometimes by choice. Sometimes it's not a choice when it becomes severe. All right. And maybe you're a perfectionist. The sadness you feel, you don't think it's anything. Okay. You felt it before, it's nothing, even though day after day, months after months, year after year, it's getting worse. You know it's getting worse, but you don't want to get help because no one can help you but yourself, you may say, right? And for those of us who are perfectionists, here's what Dr. Tal Ben-Shahar had to say when it comes to that. So perfectionists, they fear failure. They don't appreciate accomplishments. They reject painful emotions. Perfectionists are permanently disappointed. They are harsh critics of themselves and the world. I agree with that. Even though I'm not a perfectionist on steroid, but there are things I have to get done just the right way. Otherwise, they're not done or good enough. And when we become that chronically perfect in a sense of wanting to accomplish, it can cause havoc, low self-esteem, shame, guilt, self-hate. The list is endless, right? But through it all, I hope you can begin to embrace your sadness, and you can begin to embrace who you are with or without sadness, right? And in my opinion, I find that when it comes to relationship madness, sadness, it's a lot. Maybe it's hard. Let me just stop. It's hard to have any form of relationships. All right. I am an introvert, extrovert, mostly introvert by nature, but it is very hard because we can't please everyone. All right. It's impossible. If you're trying, please stop. Okay. It's impossible to please everyone, to please your partner, your family, your friends, your coworker, your kids, and to keep pleasing and perfectionize yourself. Relationships are so hard. They're impossible at times, it seems. But it's impossible to not have relationships, right? And maybe you're in a relationship where you feel alone and lonely. Like you'd be better off single. Maybe the relationship in your life are causing you to feel like shit from a ton of emotions from past childhood or traumas, right? Advice. Love people where they are, love people for who they are, and love people for what they are. And love hurting and broken people because they need it the most. And let go of resentment and unforgiveness because only you can do that. And the more you hold on to such toxic emotions, it's only hurting you when you keep it in. And I challenge you to always discover the root of your sadness. Is your sadness part of the dysfunctions that you saw experience as a child? And is your sadness a part of you that you've hidden for so long? You refuse to reach into it, even though it's surfacing up every time you get triggered by different things from what people say, different smells, and different areas in your life, right? And what are you willing to pay to stay where you are? Right? What is it you haven't healed that you know you need to bring up to heal? And maybe you don't have a choice, and maybe you need help to neutralize certain feelings and emotions. Do you honor your dysfunction as an adult, even though you know that they're not serving you? Is there a little boy, a little girl inside you that refuses to step forward and to the light to see who you have grown and become? And it's hard because sadness hurt. Any type of emotional turmoil or trauma hurts. So I hope throughout this episode you were able to pick up different things that works for you. And to wrap up this episode, I really want to give you the space and some tips and tools that may or may not work for you. You never know. You just got to try and see. I've tried most of these, right? Because sadness, grief, shame, guilt, and all of those emotions, they somehow blend and fused at times into one. It is easy to just see one individually, not understanding or realizing that it's a chain reaction that happens when one of these emotions are out of line. So my advice and tips, take it or leave it. Learn to work with your nervous system instead of against it. At times we don't have control of what the body does, but we can work with the body to help it understand that what it does is not serving you or other parts of you, right? And I've suffered with, let's just call it sadness, depression, and other health issues, right? I've learned to work for my body instead of against it and calming the nervous system, right? I believe it is key to training and calming ourselves in a mad, chaotic world. And you can choose to go a step further, a step closer, and a bit deeper. Journaling, self-care, recognizing your triggers. That's a big one, you guys. Oh my goodness. How many lost loves or lost relationships or lost opportunities have you had in your lifetime because something triggered you, somebody triggered you, and you just wouldn't have it because it triggered you, right? Recognize it. And the key in recognizing your triggers is not to diminish them, it's not to forget them, is to work with them when you recognize them. All right. And just because you recognize your triggers, it doesn't make you less of a person than you were before you didn't recognize them. All right. And my next tip here is to work with the mind. That's a joke. Work with the mind. If someone were to tell me that years ago, I'd be like, what? What are you on? I want some, right? Because if you're in my case, you've had mental health issues and you've had your minds and your thoughts fighting against you for so long, you lose or lost the ability to understand that you can control it and you can work with it, right? And when we work with it, I think it makes it a bit easier, right? It's not always easy to take every thought into consideration. But I think we are stronger than what our minds tells us we are, right? And we can at times, possibly most of the time, depends on how far in your healing journey you are, we can find ways to filter what goes in our heads and in our hearts. Just because we filter it doesn't mean it's good nor bad. It just needs to be filtered. Example would be not having to believe everything you think about because it's not always true. Maybe you're telling yourself you're a failure, you're not good at this, you're not good enough. No, those are lies because you are. You're ready, you're good, and you can achieve way more than your mind is talking. And I find the mind to be so chatty. It's stupid how chatty it is. Mine is. I don't know if yours is, but just work with the mind, work with your body, work with your heart. All right. And my next tip for you is to find healthy coping mechanisms. Easy said than done. Depends on which stage you're in, but I know I'm counting on you, and you probably have done this, right? Make it a habit again. Make it a routine again. Find the ease and the fluidity in expressing yourself to yourself, right? Um, there are so many ways we can cope, but it's easy to go directly to substances and alcohol or toxic ways of coping instead of finding healthy ways of coping. But I believe as an individual, you know what's best for you. And what you choose to do is your future, your tomorrow, and it impacts you in so many ways. So it could be your yesterday, right? Speaking of yesterday, when it comes to sadness and grief, it's easier to leave yesterday and not drag it in the future with us. Because when we do that, we bring forward so many crap that we should have left behind years ago, decades ago, and it haunts us and it follows us. And we give it the power. Some of us, we feed it. We feed it. The more we feed something, the stronger it gets. All right. And I want to challenge you to learn to like yourself. You notice I don't say love first because like, I believe, comes before love. Love at times can be over exaggerated to make sense for some. All right. Learn to like yourself. When was the last time you give yourself credit that you deserve? When was the last time you say you love yourself? Not in a selfless way or selfish way to put it, right? But when was the last time that you accepted yourself? When was the last time you stopped hating on yourself, right? And when was the last time you showed kindness to yourself and others? I believe when we show kindness to others, we're also showing kindness to ourselves. Maybe we're not getting anything in the physical aspect like money or food in return, but it somehow heals the body and definitely the soul and spirit when we know that someone is in need, someone that needs support, whether it's emotional support, whatever support it may be. When we realize that we're capable of doing more than we give ourselves credit for, when we can reach out beyond what we normally reach out to, I believe there's healing in that. All right. You're not going to like this tip, but it needs to be said. Maybe you need to hear it. I need to hear it. So here it is. Stop waiting on others to fix you. Start your own fixing. Creating your own happiness is your responsibility. Some of us just want to wait. All right. While you're waiting, precious time is going by. And the people you're waiting to fix you, they have their own shit to fix. They have their own life to fix. Not that they cannot contribute to you in a positive way. Not that it can't lift you, but they cannot drag you to the finish line and they can't do the deep soul healing work for you. That's your job. You're responsible for that, right? And honor your sadness and allow yourself to feel it. Honor it. You will notice a massive difference when you honor your sadness and when you don't. And find a network system. Find people that can help you. And that can be terrifying to some because it's hard to ask for help, right? But I'm letting you know that it's okay to ask for help. And it's okay to find others who have been or who will continue to go through the same challenges that you're going through, the same amount of grief and sadness that you go through, right? And serve your community, as I was saying before. Serve others, maybe volunteer, maybe, I don't know. Give someone something that makes you happy and help others where they're at. And keep doing things that will soothe your soul and your heart when you're sad. Specifically when you're sad, keep showing up for yourself. I know that's so hard to do, but keep doing it. And sing, dance, and do things that moves you. Researchers have found that depressed participants were more likely to choose sad music because it's relaxing, calming, and soothing. Another study from the University of Limerick showed that non-depressed people also preferred sad music, bingo, when they were feeling blue, because sad music can act like a supportive friend and trigger bittersweet memories. Yes, I agree with this because music has power to heal, and there's magic in it. Listen to music and let music find you and let it sip through you and let it wash you. And my next tip here is to do arts and crafts and puzzle and games. I don't know or don't care how you do these, but just find something that feeds you. Not physically eating, but soul on a soul level. All right. Oh, here's another one. Get out and spend time in nature, even for a few minutes to breathe the cold air or hot air, wherever you may be. Because the light that comes from the sun or just the light outside, it helps the mind and the body. And my last tip here is to meditate. I meditate. I have essential oils. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. Smudging, I smudge. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. Okay, just find what works for you. Watch your favorite TV show, laugh, cry. Know that it's okay to feel. All right? I want to leave you with this last thought. And please ponder upon it. Maybe you have to go back to replay this section. All right? Your sadness does not make you weak. It makes you strong. Your pain is valid and needs to be felt at any cost. You dress and wear your pain like your favorite color for too long, and it's not serving you. Stop dancing with sadness like it's your favorite song. You can't hide from you. You know at times what you're feeling, it's killing you inside and it's seeping through on the outside. Do you collect your pain and trauma for desperate seasons and zip them away after that? Where does your eroded memories goes in your midnight hours? Do they stand by you? Do they destroy you? Do they build you? Do they break you? Step up to the challenge, my friends, to realize and understand that others' pains are not always your responsibilities, and they're definitely not your burden to carry. Pain and grief can decay the spirit. It can remove joy. And I challenge you to rise now, to rise today and start your healing journey, because you need you. You need healing, and you need to feel at any cost. That is a wrap for this episode, my friends. I wish you so much love, so much light, so much peace. Tune in next week for a brand new episode. Until next time, I am your host, Bernadette Desir. Much love.